Hi guys, Tim Rose here. Welcome to today's episode. We are going to be talking about doubling. Doubling. Now, doubling is a term which we often find applied to the recording process, taking a couple of acoustic or electric guitar parts and panning them left and right. Same with vocals and woodwind parts and string parts. They can be applied to many things in order to create thicker textures. But the doubling I'm talking about is when you find yourself on a gig or a theatre show where you're expected to play more than one instrument. The most common that we all know about is the electric guitar and acoustic guitar doubling. And anybody who can play guitar should be able to cover that without too much of a problem. But of course there are other instruments that we have to play from time to time. Okay, first instrument up we have is the ukulele. This is my very inexpensive and green ukulele. Now, it's quite small, which can be a bit strange when you're not used to it. The tuning of this is C tuning on this one at the moment, which means we've got an A, an E, which is a bit flat, C, and then we've got G. And this G here, been tuned up the octave, so as you can hear, you see that those two strings, they're a tone apart. It gives more close voicings. Instant Bohemian Rhapsody opening chord there. Essentially you can use chord voicings that you're familiar with on the guitar, but you have to be aware that if you play what looks like a C chord here, it's going to come out sounding as an F. Parts are often written in the key that they're supposed to be heard in, so you might find yourself wanting to write in transposed chord names if you're not feeling comfortable about that. There's nothing wrong with doing that. Do whatever it takes to get the gig done effectively. Okay, so there's your ukulele. As an addendum to this, sometimes the ukulele can actually be tuned a tone higher than this, detuning. I think the last time I had to play ukulele on a show, it was tuned to detuning. The same principles apply with regards to the transposing, making sure that you play the right shape for the chord that you're after. Yep, so there you go, ukulele. Next up, we have mandolin. Again, this is a very cheap and inexpensive mandolin, and it's not the greatest instrument to play, nor the greatest instrument to play in tune. Now, things you need to consider about the mandolin: double courses, 8 strings tuned in pairs. Give it that 12-string chorusy effect. The other thing is, it's tuned in fifths, like a violin, from G, D, A, E. So if you're not familiar with that tuning, it's probably worth spending some time getting used to it. Your ears will probably try and tell you to play the wrong notes when you're not used to this. There's also a bunch of chord shapes that you need to get familiar with. Something that I haven't really done much work on in recent times. It's something I intend to sharpen up. But for example, if you're doing a run down on a G scale, going to the D would feel like you're going to an E. So, yeah, that's your mandolin. Good thing to practice actually would be to just get some easy violin music. That would, grade 1, 2, 3 stuff. It's a good way to get your reading and playing straight melodies on the mandolin together, and also, work out some chord voicings. If you know how to build up a chord, it's pretty easy to work out your own voicings. But of course they need practice like anything to develop the familiarity and fluency that you'd need to play them on a gig. Now we have everybody's favourite, the banjo. This one is tuned like the top 4 strings of a guitar. So you can use voicings that you're familiar with. That said, the visualisation of the neck can be a bit strange if you're not used to playing with these 4 strings. I'm a bass player as well, so I see 4 strings and I want to see the tuning of a bass guitar. So it takes a bit of recalibration of my brain to get used to that. But yeah, all the voicings that you know, all the 4-note voicings that you can think of will work. Banjo can be tuned other ways as well. I turned down a gig recently that was I was asked to go and dep on a show for a week, and it was in viola tuning, tuned in fifths up from C. Not only would I have the problem of being familiar with voicings that fit that kind of tuning, but also the as in the intervals of that tuning, but also the transposition of it, and I just figured it was safer to politely turn the gig down. Good bit of advice there, really. If you really feel like you're going to struggle to nail the gig, it's okay to turn it down, because people will remember if you mess it up, and they would appreciate it if you say, this is not for me. It's not possible to have everything hooked up, and knowing your limitations is a really sort of worthy attribute in truth. Other instruments that you can find yourself doubling on are obviously a 12-string guitar, which is again, it's guitar technique, tuning, and so on and so forth, but the double course does make certain things harder to play. Also, some guitar players, myself included, do play bass as well to varying degrees. I've sort of seen myself as a sort of 30 to 40% bass player all my life as well, even though I don't do a huge amount of it these days, but I am still playing a bit of bass from time to time. Also, some chairs require keyboard doubling. My keyboard skills are pretty minimal, but I can manage simple minims and semi-breves, synth bass type of lines. Anything beyond that I wouldn't feel that comfortable with. Now I'm going to play a track which I constructed to demonstrate all these different instruments being used. It's a kind of a country rock vibe with a bit of a bluegrass thing going on at the end. It's 30 seconds long, but just shows how the textures of all these instruments can work together, actually. So yeah, I hope you enjoy this little demo piece. Okay, that's it. So bye for now. I'll see you next time. Take care. Cheers.